So it's not often that I do a breaking news story hours after an incident, but there was a shooting today at Joel Osteen's church in Houston, Texas, where a female active assailant went into a church with a long gun and a young child with her, believed to be 4 or 5 years old. And ordinarily, I would wait, but there's so much information out there that I felt I had enough to come in and educate you about it. So I want to talk about this incident today. So, in case you haven't seen the news, there was a shooting at Joel Osteen's Lakewood church. 2 people have injured, including a young child believed to be 4 or 5, and the armed female suspect was killed by law enforcement inside the church. Now, I want to start off with some reality because I am a person that likes to wait until we know all the facts. I said this is very unusual for me to come in and do a breaking news story hours after a tragic incident. But my good friend, Dr. James Densley from the Violence Project, and also on my consulting team, the Violence Project, have researched every mass shooting in America from 1966 to the current day. And I want to remind us, at the time of recording this video, there's been 197 mass shootings in America since 1966. When we look at the data prior to today, there have been 4 female mass assailants. So what we're talking about here today is incredibly rare. And actually, this shooting wouldn't really form the definition of a mass shooting today, more of an active shooter. So I really want to start off saying that these incidents, what we saw today, particularly with this female, is incredibly, incredibly rare. So let's talk a little bit about actually what happened then. So this is from law enforcement talking that the female is believed to be aged 30 and 35, entered the Lakewood church on the west side at approximately 1:53 p.m. And we know that was in between their services. The 2 p.m. service was going to be a Hispanic service. And this law enforcement officer says that the female was armed with a long rifle and accompanied what I said was this 4 or 5-year-old boy with her. More to be known about who that child is and the connection. Another report said that the woman was wearing a trench coat as she entered the church. And I went onto my phone and quickly looked at the weather in Houston today, and it said there was a high of 76 and a low of 52. So a woman wearing a trench coat, which was concealing a long gun, in a place where it was somewhere between 76 and 52. This is about 5 hours after when I went to my phone and got the weather temperature, and it was still saying it was 66 in Houston. So some behavior indicators there. Do women wear trench coats? Of course they do. Do they wear them in hot conditions? Most probably a behavior indicator there, particularly as she was entering the church. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to come in, because there was a lot of information there which I thought was really applicable, even only a few hours after that she entered wearing a trench coat in a city which was incredibly hot on that day. What I also found interesting in dissecting this story is that just before 2 p.m., when she walked in, holding the long rifle, wearing the trench coat, another witness said that she also had a backpack with her. Why is that applicable? Well, we have this conversation all the time in church safety and security. Do we search for bags? Do we not search for bags? What my mind is going to right now is, what was it like on the doors to the church, the greeters that were there, the parking lot? Were they seeing any of these indicators of a woman wearing a trench coat, concealing, we know, a long gun? She's got a young child with her, 4 or 5. It's hot, and she's also got a backpack. I wonder, as time goes through, are we going to see some of these as being missed indicators? But I wanted to raise this up because we have the question all the time about backpacks in house of worship. Do we search and do we not? But we should be saying that it's quite unusual most often for people to be taking backpacks and items of large things with them into the church. Now, one of the things that the church did really well here, and I was talking to my good friend Alan Hughes this afternoon by text message, we were going back and forth. And as I expected at a large mega church such as this, the off-duty officers who would be assigned at the church were very quick to engage and eliminated the threat very early. So the casualty was reduced because of the fact they had such highly trained officers on scene. What I found interesting in this, and some of you that know me well know that I have a company called Bold North Judgment Training, and we own one of the Milo police simulators where we do the shoot, don't shoot training. One thing that always amazes me when I go to that training is how quickly people are to take shots. And then sometimes, not always, but sometimes they seem to do this at every cost. It's like, I've got to take the bad guy down, and then other people get caught in the crossfire. The reason why I want to mention that here is that even law enforcement, with their hours and hours, thousands of hours of police training, the two officers that engaged, I don't believe for 1 minute they were trying to hurt this young 5-year-old child. But in eliminating the threat, this 5-year-old child was hit in some way and is in a critical condition. Now, I praise those police officers for taking immediate action to eliminate the threat. My question is more not about their behavior, it's more about your own judgment, your own skills. If you were them, and these are people that have had thousands of hours of training, and they still hurt a young child in crossfire, which I don't believe for 1 minute they intended to do, what would you have been like in that situation? Pause for a moment, think about where is your skill set. Do you need training on shoot, don't shoot? Do you have the right judgment if you're in a situation like this? Even law enforcement, highly stressful situation, hits a young 5-year-old child. Very sad for the 5-year-old child just to be in and around it. I can only imagine the trauma if that child survives, what it's going to go through. We do know that the female did shoot a 57-year-old man, was shot in the leg and transported to hospital. He's believed to be in a stable condition. Now, there was other reports. Like I said, one of the reasons why I jump in and do this video so soon afterwards, there was so much information and misinformation that comes out. But one of the headlines that I've seen was that the female claimed to have a bomb. And again, who did she communicate that to? What was the nature of that communication? That was definitely a lead headline. At least the Daily Mail from the UK led with the headline that the suspect had a bomb. Doesn't appear to be the case, but it's a good indication for us that the first reports are often the most inaccurate. But the female said in some way that she had a bomb, so there must have been some type of verbal communication with someone inside the church for that to have happened. Joel Osteen, some comments from him, as you can imagine, during a press conference. He said that this occurred between services, and he said, I can only imagine what would have happened if this had happened during the 11 o'clock service. Osteen said she could have done much worse damage. Really important that before our services, during our services, and afterwards that we have a church safety plan in place. I'm going to talk more about this as I summarize some sort of key talking points post this, but our security plan should not just be before the service or during, it should be before, during, and after to make sure that we are always prepared for any eventuality. Something which also I found interesting, again, the first reports are often the most inaccurate, but I did want to summarize what I've been reading and share the messages here, is that someone also said another eyewitness told the television station that she was inside the church when she heard several shots fired and saw a person who appeared to be in their 20s or 30s holding a firearm. She said that she ran into a smaller room. Were those good people with guns? Were those permit to carry holders? It was just interesting to see that maybe there was other people inside that church who pulled out their firearms to try and eliminate the threat. And we always have this question, don't we, in church safety and security? How am I going to be perceived if I pull a firearm to try and eliminate the threat? Are the police going to think it's me? Are there off-duty cops? Are there other permit to carry holders? So a lot of information about potentially other people holding firearms and no one really knowing who is good, who is bad. It's the age-old question that we have is, how will someone perceive me when I have my firearm pulled if I'm ever in a situation like this? Again, pause, reflect, think about training. What would your response be if you were in this situation? How would someone know that you're a good guy with a gun? So some talking points I want to go through. Did she walk through the parking lot with the long gun? I've mentioned in Texas, in Houston particularly, when I looked 4 hours later, around 6 o'clock in the evening, it was 66 degrees. It was like high of 76, low of 50. Did she walk through the parking lot with this trench coat, concealing her long gun, with her young child, and there's a report that she had a backpack? So really fascinating. We'll know more as the story unfolds, but did she walk through the parking lot in the gun? My good friend Carl Chin has been saying this for many, many years, and the data supports it, that most of these church incidents start within the parking lot. Could she have been seen within the parking lot? Was she seen within the parking lot? It's a reminder for us that these incidents start outside and then come inside. So I wanted to throw up that question. The next statement or talking point I want to have in the learning that we already see from this is that many churches, and I traveled across the country doing security risk assessments. So I assess houses of worship, safety and security. I'm looking for their vulnerabilities. One of the things that I always witness on these Sunday services is that during the service, ushers walk away from their posts. Greeters leave the doors. And I always say, when your church is in service, keep your greeters on the door. Most of these incidents, that the data shows, they start in the parking lot. You are going to see the person when they first walk in, the indicators, trench coat, young child, possibly concealing a weapon and a backpack. She may have been seen as being out of place before she even got inside the door. Many churches, and perhaps your church is the same, the greeters leave the post. I would say they stay on those doors from when the church opens until the church closes, the last person to lock up. Always leave your doors. Always have someone on your doors. Physical security 101 is protection of your perimeter. The next question that I sort of wanted to raise up was surround the permit to carry holder. Now, if the police shot the child and they've had thousands upon thousands upon thousands of hours in training, how good a shot are you? Have some judgment training. We have our company, Bold North. We have the Milo Police Simulator. Find something in your local area. And if you are someone who is carrying a firearm in public, make sure that you have the skills to support the sophistication of what you may need to do in a highly stressful situation. So permit to carry holders, please improve your judgment, please improve your decision making, and make sure that you've really thought about it and you're prepared if ever you need to take one of those shots. And then lastly, a key talking point, one of the reasons why there was only just people injured in here and the assailant was killed was because the church had an immediate response. Like I said, as I spoke to my friend Alan Hughes, I said to him, I find it hard to believe that Joel Osteen's church wouldn't have a heavy armed security presence with his profile and with the fact they have 45, 50,000 people inside the church every week. You most probably don't have that, but what is your immediate response to an active assailant to be able to eliminate the threat quickly? Something the police did really well here was that this female was killed almost instantly as she started to fire. So, like I said, I don't always come in and do these videos so soon after a tragic event, but my thoughts and prayers go out for not only Joel Osteen's community and the people that are in that church, but as a father of two young boys, 10 and 13, I wonder the trauma of that 4 or 5-year-old to be a witness to this horrific incident. I pray to God that that child can pull through the injuries that they sustained. But my thoughts and prayers are really with what a burden to place on such a young child. Really, really tough as a father to think about that poor 5-year-old to go through such a traumatic event. And I pray to God that that young child can survive and can move past the trauma that they've borne witness to. So, as always, those are my views and opinions. Would love your views and opinions. As the dust settles and more information is known, I'll come back and I'm sure I'll do an update on this video. But there was so much already came out, a lot of good questions. I thought I would just come in and offer some perspective of it. So for now, you stay safe, you have a blessed day, and let's keep our thoughts and prayers with the community in Houston. Take care, everybody.